comes down to the relationships. Ophelia and Hamlet, Gertrude and Hamlet, Gertrude and Claudia.
A lot of the characters come across differently and the dynamics between them are very different. For instance, I can think of one scene at the end where in the original Gertrude is just kind of petting at Hamlet while he's fighting and being like, oh, you come here, I'm gonna... But it's very different when it's a father saying that to a daughter, so we had to find a very different way to do that.
I think a lot of people, when they think about Hamlet, the natural relationship in Hamlet is the relationship between Hamlet and Ophelia.
We've been treating the relationship between Hamlet and Ophelia as more rather an established relationship, whereas in Shakespeare's it's more of a implied or kind of hinted at, but it's never really confirmed that they had a real pre-existing relationship.
A lot of the stage productions and the film productions, you know, they take a very wide variety of interpretations on it.
This is a boyfriend and a girlfriend for some time that Ophelia's family doesn't necessarily approve of, but he continues to see her anyway.
Some, you know, bordering on violent.
And then the first time we're actually together on stage is the breakup, is when it's when Ophelia is kind of pushed into breaking up with Hamlet.
Switch the genders, that inherent power that men often have over women, gets switched.
And that scene in particular, it's very interesting because that's the get thee to a nunnery scene, which traditionally is Hamlet just telling her to just leave, go to a nunnery. There's nothing else for you. But when it's a woman saying it to a man, it changes that. Like I think there's a lot more meaning, different meanings emerge from that.
The scene, specifically the nunnery scene, is very much a power struggle.
The relationship between a male Gertrude and a female Claudia is one that we've had to work on a lot, because not only are we developing our characters within the context of the genders we have to see how that relationship mixes as well.
We're finding very masculine ways to portray Gertrude.
Todd has found that Gertrude is in fact very masculine in many ways, and similarly I find that there are many aspects of Claudia using her femininity in her role.
Whereas when I was preparing for the audition, I initially thought of Gertrude as being more, that the portrayal would be more submissive to Claudia and more of a effeminate man.
We're playing with stereotypes. In some ways we're lockstepping in the stereotypes about perhaps a negative stereotype as well, about the manipulative woman.
My vision of the Stepford husband, somebody who's been the husband that's been browbeat, where that's not the case in this portrayal.
So using her looks with her husband to manipulate him as well.
With a man marrying his wife's sister, will the audience be as forgiving and understanding of that? My sentiment is probably not.
Ophelia is the youngest child of Polonius, and he is babied, being the youngest son, especially after Laertes leaves for school. His relationship with his mother is good up to a point. I remember one time we were discussing it. I said their relationship is fine, but Mom, could you back off a little?
Part of me is thinking of Ophelia, and that I don't want him to be made, see? I don't want him to be made a fool of. I don't want him to be toyed with. And I don't want him to get this horrible reputation, and then that's it. No one's ever going to take him seriously again.
There's still remnants of that. He doesn't have much say in some of his choices, but it's not so much that he is necessarily forced into things, but rather he goes along with them out of going back and kind of harkening back to his relationship with his mother. He goes along with them because it's not worth the fight.
I think Polonius is constantly aware of the tenuous relationship she has with this powerful family. So a lot of Polonius's motive is, how do I keep this good thing going?
I love the Claudia Hamlet dynamic. It's been a lot of fun to do in rehearsal, but it conjures up these ideas of evil stepmothers. You know, I'd love to see a production of Cinderella where she kills her evil stepmother with the glass slipper, or Snow White actually takes revenge for her stepmom trying to kill her with a poison apple. But you'll never ever see that fairy tale, because fairy tales, there's no seeking of revenge. It's more about falling in love and finding your prince. You really won't see that in a fairy tale. You know, it's all about good versus evil, or ugly versus pretty. And, you know, I just think the dynamic between Hamlet and Claudia is just so much deeper than that.